Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. So yesterday, as we were wrapping up another delightful edition of The Right Time, we started to get the word there might be a trade between the Cavs and the Celtics involving Kyrie Irving and Isaiah Thomas. And it was like, you want to talk about it right now? I was like, nah, man, save that for tomorrow. A, I didn't have time to gather my thoughts. B, what else are we going to talk about tomorrow if we don't talk about this? So we sat on this, man. We put it in the icebox for a little while, just let it chill out for you. And then boom! We wound up with the trade. So Kyrie Irving goes to Boston. In return, Cleveland gets Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, Ante Zizic. Is that it? Zizic? I'm going to call him DJ Scratch. Anyway, and on top of that, the Nets unprotected 2018 first-round pick. People are not as wild about that pick as they were about the 2017 pick because that looked far more likely to be number one overall, which it in fact turned into. But I looked at the Nets, and people are like, this Nets team isn't as sorry as last year's Nets team, but it sure looks sorry to me. Like, I mean, the Nets are so sorry that I don't know, like, what the gradations are of sorriness. I don't have a great answer for you there. But anyway, the trade has been made, and guys, that feels like a lot to give up for Kyrie Irving. A lot. So, like, what exactly was Danny Ainge thinking? And here's Danny Ainge rambling about it for about a minute.
It presented itself. It wasn't available earlier in the summer, this same opportunity. And these are very difficult decisions, as you can imagine. We face these difficult decisions at all times during the year. You never know when something may present itself, but an opportunity for us presented itself, even though it is a high price tag. It is a great value that we're giving up. We love Isaiah and love Jay Crowder, and we're just getting to know Ante Zizic, who we've watched and nurtured over the last year, and giving up a quality first-round pick. But acquiring a 25-year-old perennial all-star, a player that, fits a timeline for us and is a fantastic offensive player, is one of the best offensive players in the league. You have to pay a heavy price.
All right, couple things. One, Jay Crowder got to be like, stop lying, fool. You don't love me. You think Jay Crowder would hear about that right now? We love Jay Crowder, fool. You don't love me. Every time y'all got a halfway decent small forward that comes out there, y'all clapping trying to get them to come here. Fool, you don't love me. They think about that in that meeting with Jay Crowder. Like, Jay, just want to tell you that. To start with, we love you. Hey, man, get your hand off my shoulder. Yeah. Take another step back. That's what I'd do if I was you. Yeah. But there's the other part of this, right? This is a high price to give up for Kyrie Irving. And it is typical that if you want to get a 25-year-old perennial all-star, because aren't there many guys who are 25 and perennial all-stars, then you do have to pay a high price. The only thing about that was every time I heard Danny Ainge talking about Kyrie Irving, when he went to the superlatives, he went to the superlatives about how great of an offensive player he was, and that he was such a great offensive player, and that, he's one of the best offensive players in the league. And I feel like for the package that they gave up, you better be getting back more than just one of the best offensive players in the league. You at the very least need to be able to come into this conversation and say, but you know what? He's also better than you think on defense. He ain't even bothered to tell that lie. He was just like, nah. He's a really, 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 really good offensive player. That's where he was on that. And I just need to know, you gave up one really good offensive player and in return got another really good offensive player, neither of whom plays very much defense. How much better did you actually make your team in the course of making this deal? Now, I totally understand the argument, and people have been hitting me with this as though I hadn't heard this anywhere. But Isaiah Thomas's deal is up at the end of the year. If you give Danny Ainge credit for anything in this, is he did not leave himself in a position to make the sentimental decision about Isaiah Thomas, right? It's always very, very easy to get really caught up in a guy that has a great season like that, especially when he's little and somewhat cuddly. Then, bring him back. Fans love him. Kids love him especially. And, in case of emergency, like somebody get food poisoning or something like that, put him in a green suit, top hat, send him out there at halftime. You never know when you might have to do that, man. Isaiah brought a lot to the organization. It's not just what he did, it's what he could do. But anyway, they got a taller version of Isaiah Thomas. Now, the taller version part matters because we talked about this. How much faith are you putting in a 5'9", ball-dominant point guard to make it happen for your team? Purely talking about, like, the physiology of this. You would rather Kyrie Irving be that guy. You'd rather have a guy his height with the ball than a guy who is 5'9". You feel better about that guy's ability to get his shot off. However, I still have fresh in my mind and memory of that dude. Shannon, what game was that? Was that game 3 where he just dribbled it out where they had a chance to get a 2-for-1 and instead he decided to dribble the ball for 20 seconds?
Yeah, I believe so.
And he plays on the same team with LeBron, right? That's what I'm thinking about?
That's the same guy, yeah.
It was game 4, right? They won game 3, didn't they? No, they were down 3-0 and then went away. Either way it goes, no. I don't think that this is what you want. I am not sold that this is what you want if you are the Celtics. Like, if you're going to hold on to this and play this game where we stacking all these assets, I feel like you needed to come back with more than Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. Like, this is not coming back with LeBron and Chris Bosh. I feel like you needed to come back with a little bit more than they ultimately brought back with them. I also think, though, to be fair to them, you got to make a move on Isaiah Thomas when you can. And they got him out of there, right? They got him out of there. They got something back. I think there's something to it. But I'm looking at this Celtics team, and Marcus Smart, he is a very good defensive player, even if I find him to be perhaps the most annoying player in the NBA. He is a very good defensive player. But Avery Bradley is a boss on defense, and they just traded him. And Jay Crowder was a boss on defense, and they just put a stamp on him, too, and they just sent him out of town. I don't fully understand what the team is that they're going to trot out here this year. So, Shannon, what are we looking at as a starting five? We're looking at Kyrie, Marcus Smart, Gordon Hayward, Al Horford.
And one of the Morris twins.
Oh, they do have one of those.
Yes, because they traded one of their better defensive players in Avery Bradley for Morris.
That's
twin.
right. They got back the one who plays.
The one with the beard.
Yeah. Which one is it?
And plays in the phone posits.
No. Is this the good one?
It's the one with the tattoos.
Yeah. But is he the good one? Have we figured out which one of them was the good one?
That's to be determined.
I think it's Markieff. Markieff's the one that played in Washington, right?
Yes.
Is he the good one?
They traded for Marcus.
Okay, they got Marcus. There we are. They have Marcus.
And there's also a possibility, speaking of their start lineup, that they could go with Jaylen Brown as well.
That is true.
Two guard.
That is true. I tell you this, though. It sounds like Kyrie going to get one lesson in passing the ball from whichever one of the Morrises they got. I already forgot. Hey, you're going to start passing the ball. I'm going to tell you this right now. You're going to start looking up at me when I'm open. So here's what Boston's trying to do. And to be fair also to the Celtics, I feel like the Celtics are in an interesting situation because I've never seen a team that's been in a position where I can make an argument they should be playing for a championship and make an argument just as compelling that they should be playing for the future, right? Like, I don't know how exactly you balance those two things. I'm inclined to believe that if you got a championship window, you try to go for the championship. Do they have a championship window legitimately? That's a good question because I don't think this team is any kind of competition for Golden State, at least not as it is currently constructed. They are making the call that they think a team whose two best players are Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward can make a push at a championship. Do you really think a team whose two best players are Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward can make a push at a championship? In fact, I don't even know where Al Horford falls into this one. Is Al Horford the guy to get everybody else shots? Like, is Al Horford the playmaker? I mean, I think the argument a lot of people make is, well, Brad Stevens will figure something out. He can't figure out more than these dudes are actually capable of doing. Right? Like, maybe he can come in and do like a Larry Brown magic trick on this team, but I don't look at this and be like, okay, now you've got the roster that's going to be LeBron and them. I don't see it. I don't see that there. And look, they got 2 years to make a decision on Kyrie. Kyrie's got 2 years to make a decision on them. This is what Danny Ainge decided was worth cashing in on. Kyrie Irving. He likes Kyrie Irving a lot more than I do. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Give us a call. Coming up next, we just tried to figure out what the Celtics were doing. The hell are the Cavs doing? I don't fully understand that either, I don't think. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the right time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Gary Washbrun of the Boston Globe will join us next segment. Gary Washburn will join us at 4:30 Eastern. Get his read on the Kyrie Irving trade, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. And, hey, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. So, yeah, we talked about this. Kyrie Irving heading to Boston. On the way back is Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, the homie, and the unprotected 2018 first-round pick of the Brooklyn Nets. That is the trade. I don't fully get this for Boston because I'm not so sold that this makes Boston better right now. I'm not sure it makes Boston better down the line because I thought that part of the problem Boston had was with Isaiah Thomas. Now, the Isaiah Thomas problem was he was 5'9", and you don't want somebody 5'9" dominating the ball like that. But also, I wasn't sure how I felt about a score-first, ball-dominant, defensively lacking point guard. And then they went and got a younger one who'll probably be there for longer. You kind of box yourself into a similar problem as what you had before. Don't quite get it. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Let's hit the phones and talk to Mike in California. Mike, thanks for calling the right time. Fine, then, Mike. Be like that. Let's go with Brian in California. Brian, thanks for calling the right time.
Yeah, I just got something to say about these fans out here burning jerseys, man. Like, I don't understand why anybody even gives these fools any type of publicity. And like, if you out there burning your jersey and you got a woman, I don't even understand how you still have a woman. Like if you're single and you're out there burning jerseys, like it just shows a clear that you are unstable as a person. Like, I just don't even get that. And let me get back to something. Get back to a little bit of funny about, I don't get to listen to your show each and every day until, like, later on in the evening. But back to last week when he was talking about Ezekiel Elliott and his attorneys, and they were talking about their evidence, talking about the evidence, what they had, and his attorney said that maybe his girl was waiting tables and she got them bruises. Like, I've dated some women that waited tables, and they ain't never came home with no bruises on their bodies. So I love your show, and I love how you get into the funny and you, like, get off into a little comedic rant. I didn't understand how you didn't just find that completely hilarious.
Yeah.
But that is one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah. I feel you, bro, and I appreciate the call, but that was a little awkward at the time. It was a little awkward. It was a little awkward. I mean, I saw something where somebody burned a Kyrie jersey, or somebody burned Isaiah Thomas jersey. How many people are actually doing this, or are we all sending around the same picture? Like, serious question on that. Like, are we all sending around the same picture on that? Like, is this really that much phenomenon? How you burning jerseys on a trade? I thought this is how y'all liked it. Personnel decisions made by management. Anyway, the Cleveland Cavaliers now have Isaiah Thomas. Hey, and how does this go? Like, for the Cavs, how exactly does this go? Apparently, the Cavs were concerned that Kyrie Irving didn't even want to come to training camp in the first place. Like, this was a wrap. The bridge been burnt. Ship be sinking. Time was up. So they went ahead and made the move. I have to say, I think they got more out of that move than I ever thought they would have been able to get in a trade for Kyrie, right? So, like, credit to Kobe Altman, the new dude on the team, who doesn't look the way you might have thought he did if you've seen his resume and seen his name. But anyway, Kobe made a good deal. Isaiah Thomas, I think at the very least, is a good short-run option. They're not obligated to have him past this year, although it's not like clearing him off the books is going to all of a sudden get you all this cap relief. He only makes like $7 million a year right now. So, I mean, I doubt they're going to come out here and offer him the super extension fresh out the gate. No, nor do I think that he would take it because there's no telling if LeBron James is going to be there or not. But for the Cavs, I can make an argument that this is as much as they could expect to get in a trade for Kyrie Irving. They got some additional depth on the wing, which is important because otherwise, Shannon, wouldn't they be coming out there with Richard Jefferson getting some significant minutes?
I mean, who do you got? You got what? Shump and Shump, still JR, and Richard Jefferson, right? That would have been
bad news. I think that would have been bad news. Is that the best way to put it? Did you miss anybody?
I'm thinking that's it.
Kyle
right?
Korver.
Oh, wow. Ooh. Oh, I forgot about Kyle Korver since he disappeared in the finals.
Yes.
Forgot all about him.
Yes, Kyle Korver in year 15, by the way. Kyle Korver. Yeah, no. So, like, getting Jay Crowder, that one matters. Like, I think that's a helpful piece to have. Isaiah Thomas, I'll be curious to see how ultimately they work it out there. But, I mean, you can make it work regular season-wise while having him, certainly. And you don't have to depend on him. Because, see, the thing that Kyrie's going to have to deal with playing for Boston is he's the only dude on that squad that in the postseason you trust to get his own shot. Remember, in Utah, when it came down as a time in the playoffs to get your own shot, they didn't go to Gordon Hayward. They went to Joe Johnson. Right. So, like, this is how this goes. Like, Kyrie is going to be the guy on that team to get his own shot. Isaiah Thomas will not be the only guy on his team that's now expected to go out there and be able to get his own shot. It won't just be him. So I'll be curious to see how he's freed up being off the ball and having LeBron as the guy to take the ball a lot. Like, I'll be curious to see how that goes. It'll also be interesting to see how effective is Isaiah Thomas if he doesn't have the ball all the time. These are the things that we're going to wind up seeing from this squad. But, I mean, did the Cavs get worse? Like, I don't think that Isaiah Thomas is as good a player as Kyrie Irving necessarily, but given that they both have the same deficiencies and the things they both give you positive are roughly the same, did the Cavs get worse? Because I don't think they did. And I don't necessarily know if the Celtics really got better. Which then makes you be like, yo, why did anybody make this trade? Like, I'm torn in this where I look at two teams who made this trade, and honestly, I feel like they both are going to be about where they were. That's where I feel like it was. I don't feel like Kyrie Irving takes the Celtics over the top to win the East, let alone win a championship, right? The Celtics still just talking about winning the East. Do I think this makes them better than the Cavs? Nah, because I looked, there's a whole lot of names that were involved in that trade, but you know which one wasn't? LeBron. LeBron wasn't in that trade. Like, the Celtics are not good enough at this point where I could ignore the LeBron factor and say, yeah, I think they'll win 4 out of 7. Maybe we'll see. Maybe this will turn out different as the regular season goes on. I don't know. But I'm not there. I'm just not there. And the Celtics are asking for an outlier to happen if they're talking about winning a championship with this squad, where your best 2 players are Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward and you win a championship. Man, I can give you maybe 2 examples that are similar. One of them is the 04 Pistons, and I don't even know how similar that is necessarily. The other one is the 2014 Spurs. That's it. Otherwise, man, you need more firepower up top. Celtics have now gone, Shannon, from being a handful of low spades. I feel like Kyrie, is Kyrie a deuce or the ace of spades?
Because of the defensive deficiencies, I would say he's an ace.
You go with the ace. So Gordon Hayward, are we making him the queen?
He's a queen.
He's a queen? Yeah. I feel like is King too high?
You mentioned earlier about the Utah having to go to Joe Johnson in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
He's a queen.
He is a queen. Joe Johnson's a king. At least late in the game, saying Joe Johnson cutting the queen.
I'm saying if you're supposed to be the guy, but yet Joe Johnson's the man getting the shots late for you.
Yes,
you're a queen.
Year 16, Joe Johnson. By the way, yeah, so you're a queen. So how many books you talking about? How many books you pulling with an ace and a queen? Ace and queen, your 2 high cards in your hand. How many books you pulling? How many books would you feel like? Because they don't have a whole lot of aces over there, right? Like, how many guys do they have? I mean, I guess, it's a handful of low spades. It's a handful of low spades. So I guess they feel like maybe they can pull 4. Maybe they can pull 4. Nah, I feel like 5's asking for a lot. 5's asking for a lot.
I just don't see them as a team that would go board. So, yes, 5 is asking for a lot, but I think they think their hand is better than board.
Here's what it is. I feel like they got 2 books they can count and an array of possibles. They could wind up with anywhere between 2 books and 6 books. But you need 7. You need to get to 7. You need to get to 7. At least get to 7. Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. All right, coming up next, on to Gary Washbrun of the Boston Globe. Find out what the read is out of there about the Kyrie Irving trade on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. And joining us now, he covers the NBA for the Boston Globe. His name is Gary Washburn. Now, Gary, were you surprised that the Celtics gave up as much as they did to get Kyrie Irving?
I was surprised they gave up that Brooklyn pick because they've coveted that so much. But to make the salaries match, Bomani, you knew that they were going to have to give up more than one player. It was not going to be a straight-up swap, Isaiah for Kyrie Irving. So you knew that they were going to have to send multiple players. The Brooklyn pick surprised me, but I was also surprised they didn't have to give up Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum. I think the Celtics are thrilled that they didn't have to give up either of those two guys.
Now, with this Brooklyn pick, is it that the improvements that the Nets have made in the offseason made that pick less valuable?
Maybe, because they do have a rather decent team. I'm talking about decent, talking about making the playoffs, but decent, not terrible. You know what I'm saying? Like 25 wins, 28 wins. So, that does make the pick a little bit less attractive because they added Allen Crabbe, D'Angelo Russell. They have real NBA players now, Bomani. So that should make the pick a little bit different, and it's not as maybe as attractive. But I think Cleveland will gladly take it. They've missed some first-round picks over the years. They've traded them all. And then you remember that, Anthony Bennett fiasco. So I think they're looking forward to having a lottery pick.
All right, talking to Gary Washbrun of the Boston Globe here on The Right Time. Now with Isaiah Thomas, how difficult was it for them to part with him?
Very, because in his 2.5 years, he had become a fan favorite. I mean, you saw it, Bomani. He played through his sister's death. He busted his mouth and lost teeth. He didn't miss a game during the playoffs until the hip injury sidelined him. People loved him. He was good in the community. He embraced Boston. A lot of athletes, as you know, can't play here. They don't like playing here. It's a rabid fan base. Isaiah embraced the pressure. He embraced bringing the Celtics back to respectability, and he wanted to be the face of the franchise. But his contract was expiring, and that's the only thing. That's what made this whole thing difficult. So there's a collective, like a bittersweet emotion in Boston today. They like Kyrie Irving. They're excited about the possibility of Kyrie Irving, but I don't think anyone around here wanted to lose Isaiah and see him go to Cleveland.
Well, do you think the Celtics had already decided that he just could not come back for the prices he was going to command?
Yeah, I mean, he kept just talking max contract, which meant he wasn't going to try to take any hometown discount. Even though he made 6.2, and let's say something like 22 per year, $22 million would have been a hefty raise. I think he felt respect-wise it was about time he got due, and he was ready to get paid on the back end, and whoever it is going to pay him the $30 million or $27 million plus that he feels like he deserves. So I think that and also his hip injury, we don't know when he'll come back. Danny Ainge hinted that he could miss some regular season time with the hip injury. The fact that he's 28, he'll be 29 in February. When does he lose a step? Do you sign into a 5-year deal? All those questions came into account. And also, Bomani, the fact that Kyrie Irving was available. If Kyrie Irving isn't available, this never happens. Isaiah Thomas is in Boston, and this team goes and tries to beat Cleveland as it is.
All right, we're talking to Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe here on The Right Time. Now, there have been some rumors out that Celtics players didn't necessarily enjoy playing with Isaiah Thomas that much. Have you observed any of that?
No, I do think he's a ball-dominant player, but I do think that he would have embraced playing with Gordon Hayward this year. I don't think he wanted to do all the scoring and then have them get thumped in the Eastern Conference Finals. He understood that this team needed more offense. It needed to share the ball a little bit more. So I don't think he's a selfish guy. He's not a me-first type of guy. But if you give him the ball and give him opportunity to score, like many superstars, he's going to try to score. So he likes himself offensively, Bomani, but I don't think he's a selfish player.
All right, talking to Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe here on The Right Time. Now, of course, the question is, will Kyrie sign a long-term deal? The Celtics have indicated that they think that he'll probably stay. I guess they wouldn't have done that if they thought otherwise. But 2 years is a long time, right?
Yeah, that's a long time to make an impression for the city and the team to make an impression on him. So, yeah, it's a long way to go. So I think the fact that he has 2 years left in his deal, they can make an impression. His dad played college ball in Boston, so he's been here before. So there's some ties here. So I think the Celtics know they've got to put on their best face to keep him. And remember, he'll only be 27 when he hits free agency. So you're talking about, I don't think they had any issue giving him a max deal at age 27. And if he remains healthy, he's had some injury history, and we all know the knee injury a couple years ago in the finals. But if he stays healthy, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be back.
Now, given that the Celtics also had to give up Jay Crowder in this deal, are we sure that they got better?
That's a good question. I mean, they gave up a lot of toughness in Crowder, and obviously you're losing 29 points a game in Isaiah Thomas. I think they've got the better player in the deal, Bomani. I'm not sure if they're a better team. This all depends on the chemistry. You got 11 new guys. They have 4 players from last year's Eastern Conference team that made the Eastern Conference Finals. So they got to have a lot of chemistry. You got a lot of bowling that needs to be done, a lot of dinners, a lot of getting to know yous over the next month before training camp, because who knows how it's going to work out with a Marcus Morris, the rookie Gabricelli. I mean, there's so many new guys here. Aaron Baines. I mean, just countless guys. Shane Larkin. Like, how are these guys going to, what is Hayward? Who becomes the leader of this team? There's a bunch of questions that need to be answered in the next couple of weeks.
Well, it's also safe to say this team's got to figure out how to play some defense.
Oh, yeah. That's going to be a problem. And let's face it, though, Bomani, you're going to have to outscore old Golden State. Like, Cleveland had a decent defense. They shut down the Celtics, and Golden State scored on them like they weren't even there. So I think the philosophy is, you know what, we can defend. That'd be great. But Golden State's going to still drop 120 on us. So if you're the Celtics, you're trying to get offensive and then figure out defense later and maybe have the arsenal try to outscore teams like that. I don't think the Celtics feel like they can compete with Golden State at this level, but I think they do feel like they can win the East, and they're going to need offense. Last year, they were a solid defensive team, and Cleveland scored on them like a hot knife through butter.
All right, that is Gary Washbrun, covers the NBA for the Boston Globe. Check his work out over there, my man. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe for joining us last segment. Amin Elhassan will join us next segment. Amin Elhassan will join us at 5 Eastern. Tell us who he thinks got the better end of the Cavs-Celtics trade. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Let's hit the phones right fast and talk to Helmut in Germany. Helmut, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Thank you, Bomani. Thank you for having me. I wanted to say that I do think the Kyrie trade and everything that's happened, I think the media is missing the point. You had David Griffin a few weeks ago say that they did not do a good job of enabling him to lead the team. It's not his job. It is the job of Tyronn Lue. And even in your ESPN article about a year ago, he said that when he was facing Boston, he faced the best coach he has ever faced. He was not believing what he was seeing defensively and offensively from the Boston Celtics. I think a lot of this falls on the shoulders of Tyronn Lue, because in the article he also said that offensively he would like to play a more progressive game, but he is limited to the set that he has provided. So he is working within the framework. And I think the media is completely missing the dynamic between him and Tyronn Lue, because the Cavaliers are playing the same style of ball after 3 years that it took 1 year of Miami to figure out that you can't play this sort of isolation game. And eventually Eric Spoelstra figured out how to play a cohesive ball game by incorporating all that talent. Tyronn Lue still has not figured this out.
Well, I tell you, Helmut, I appreciate the call. I got to disagree, though. And where I disagree is, and Shannon, you correct me if I'm wrong here, I felt like on the fly, Lue basically made them Golden State East. And they turned into a team that spread the ball around and did a lot of shooting threes as they could. Now, a lot of that goes through LeBron. But Kyrie, I don't feel like Kyrie is the victim of isolation ball. I feel like Kyrie is like, that's what I do.
And if there's anyone that's loved isolation, it's Kyrie. That's his style. Like, I can dribble and get past anybody in the league.
That's right. By the way, Shannon, Helmut from Germany sounded exactly like I expected.
That was a good call, too. We were just saying it off air. That was a good call. I appreciate that.
There we go. 888-729-3776. All right, Mike from California, you're back. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, bro?
Doing all right.
Hey, full disclosure, I'm a Boston fan, and I think Ainge gave away the house. All LeBron needs is people who are motivated, play hard, and have a chip on their shoulder. Jay Crowder is exactly what he needs to ruin my Boston Celtics. The man has been irritated. He's been petty ever since that whole Gordon, whatever his name is, from Utah. They slighted him when he was standing right there. So now he goes to Cleveland, and he's our main rival now. He is going to make our life miserable, and he's getting the ball from his teammate and LeBron James. How did they trade both of them in our conference? I don't understand, man. I don't get it.
Well, I will tell you this, man, and I appreciate the call. The fact that these two teams would make a trade with one another is a bit shocking, as there is a certain zero-sum element when it comes to the success of one versus the success of the other. But he did point out something I hadn't quite considered. Jay Crowder had to be so sick and tired of them cheering every time there was another small forward coming to town. Shannon, he going to be checking Gordon Hayward the first time they play like Jordan and Pippen were on Tony Kukoc at the Olympics.
And guess what? You don't have to wait long because the Cavs and the Celtics play opening night.
Opening night? Really? Opening? No, I want this to build up a little bit. Like, does that feel too soon to you? Because it feels like too soon to me.
Gives us something opening night to look forward to, similar to with the NFL and they had their Thursday night game. Like, we already got the biggest trade of the offseason. You get it right away.
Yeah, but tell me this, though. Would you rather that game be opening night or Christmas? Because I'd rather it be Christmas.
Because now this trade does take away from the Warriors Cavs Christmas.
Oh no, I mean they'll still be there, right? Like that'll still be there. But I'm just saying, like, let these teams figure it out a little bit. I want to have that build up. The first game of the year, like I was there for Derrick Rose's first game back after the injury, and I know what you're gonna say because y'all hate Derrick Rose. But like I remember, it's like, man, this would have been so much better if there'd been like some time to build up, some, for him to get some reps under him and everything like this. Just the first game, nah, I'm not gonna be like ready for NBA basketball. When is this first game? Isn't it like the middle of October or something like that?
Tuesday, October 17th, 8 p.m.
We're not going to be ready for that, no. That's Columbus Day. In fact, I think that is exactly Columbus Day, or close to it. Either way, we're not ready for that.
Okay, so first game of the season, you got Boston at Cleveland. Cavalier fans, do they cheer Kyrie? Maybe this is a question for Aaron Goldhammer later in the show, but I'll ask you. First game back, do the Cavs fans cheer Kyrie Irving?
He'll be booed like he's never been booed before in his life. Because nobody's really had a negative opinion of Kyrie Irving prior to this. Man, they going to boo the hell out of him. The ever-loving hell out of him when he comes back there. Anyway, quick change of gears. Shannon, it sounds like your man Odell Beckham might not play the season opener. Sources are telling Jordan Run-On and Dan Graziano he might miss a couple weeks. How you feeling?
I got to hear from both sides.
How you feeling?
Got to hear from both sides.
But how do you feel?
Did Tawana tell you that? Unless you get it right from the source. If Tawana didn't tell you, then I'm not believing it.
Did Tawana tell you that it's such a low-key, undercover, classic moment that it just got? Did Tawana tell you that? I did. Let's see how this goes. I tell you this, let the Giants come out here and not look good those first two games with Odell Beckham. Odell will be hurting, but you know who won't be hurting? His agent. This is the best way possible for Odell to get that cheese. Let me remind y'all of what life was like before me.
And not to mention, too, Odell's not the type that's going to play while hurt. If you remember his rookie year, I think he missed the first, first 4 games because he had a hamstring injury. So he's not going to rush back from these things.
Nah. Nor should he, by the way. He worth too much money to everybody to be rushing him back. He should not rush back. But let them come out here and struggle. Odell going to be on there doing an Instagram video. I just wanted to remind you guys that I believe I should be the highest paid player in the NFL. Or at the very least, I should make as much as this bum throwing me the ball. Like, how long is it before Odell actually gives us that one? Like, fine, don't pay me as much as you pay everybody, but pay me as much as you pay this bum who throws me the ball. If he says bum, it'll be the best.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. Big trade in the NBA. Kyrie Irving going to Boston. half the Celtics going back to Cleveland. Talk about that trade here with our man, ESPN front office insider in the NBA. His name is Amin Elhassan. All right, so Amin, so looking at next season, which of these teams do you think helped themselves more in this trade?
Just next season, probably Cleveland. Mainly because I think Kyrie and Isaiah Thomas are pretty much a wash. I think we can argue either way who's better and not walk away convinced either way. But the addition of Jay Crowder for the Cavs, given that they needed someone like that, someone who's big, who can guard multiple positions, and on offense isn't just a complete liability. And so for the Cavs, I think they got slightly better than they were a year ago, just in terms of this upcoming season.
Now, are you surprised that the Celtics are willing to give up this much, given that Danny Ainge had been loath to basically give up anything in any trade that he would consider?
Not at all, because there's a couple things going on. First of all, when you talk about that pick, it's a ticking time bomb, right? You're a lot of people are just assuming it's going to be a top 3 pick. But Brooklyn gets better every day because they're on a constant talent hunt, and they've got a smart front office and a coaching staff that's going to be creative in terms of how to use guys. So beyond just what if someone on another bad team gets hurt, there's also the threat of Brooklyn getting marginally better. And marginally better means going from a top 3 pick to 7 or 8 or 9. Now, for the Cavs, that's a risk worth taking because it's an insurance policy against LeBron leaving in a year from now. But for the Celtics, every day you hold on to that pick, you are gambling a little bit. You are gambling that the Nets are going to stay terrible, the ping pong balls will fall the way that we want them to, and this is going to be a great pick. So there was I would say there was a sense of urgency to get rid of that, and you got a bona fide superstar player who, most importantly, is under contract. Gives him a cost certainty for 2 more years, whereas Isaiah Thomas is basically a lame duck player here. He's 3 years younger. You're pushing that payday away, at least a couple of summers away. That's why you give up as much as the Celtics did in order to get Kyrie Irving.
All right, we're talking to Amin Elhassan of ESPN here on the Right Time. Now, earlier you said you saw the 2-point guards as kind of being a wash, but other than being taller, is there anything in particular you see that Kyrie could bring to Boston that they didn't have last season?
Oof, and take this with a massive grain of salt. He is better defensively than Isaiah Thomas. And that's not hard because, as we've said many a time, Isaiah Thomas was statistically the absolute worst defensive player in the NBA last year. And so I guess Kyrie is – you could say that, A, Kyrie's a better defender right now, although, again, massive grain of salt. And then the other part of it is Kyrie and Isaiah Thomas, we call them a wash. We also have to recognize Kyrie's 3 years younger. So the concept, at least, is that his ceiling is much higher than that of Isaiah Thomas, which we all agree. I think we're seeing his ceiling right now. And so there is that unknown of what if he's even better, and we just don't know it yet because he hasn't reached that point of evolution yet in his game.
Now, where are you on Boston's young guys, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
I like them. They're all right. I mean, they're not deal breakers, but obviously if you're Boston, the name of the game is to keep as many of those guys and not just throw them in just because. And they had the upper hand in that conversation. The idea that, look, Cleveland, you're never going to get a deal as good as this. We're giving you an MVP candidate in return for Kyrie Irving, and you're getting that unprotected pick, and you're getting a wing defender, 3-and-D guy that you've been looking for, and we'll throw in a Euro prospect in on top of that. The Cavs didn't have a leg to stand on and say, no, you got to run that Jason Tatum as well, because this was the best package that they were ever going to get. But if you're the Celtics, again, I wouldn't put my hopes up, especially this year. I don't expect Jason Tatum to even play regularly this year. Jaylen Brown, obviously, a little ahead of the schedule because he had a year of NBA play. He's going to be a rotation guy. But they're all right. I was talking about this with George Sedano. Jason Tatum ends up being like a 3-time All-Star. Is that really disappointing? Not really. I mean, he's a pretty good player.
All right, talking to Amin Elhassan here on ESPN on the Right Time. So with the Cavaliers, do you have a preliminary LeBron lean?
Oh yeah, he's out. Come on, man. That's the whole point of this deal. The whole point of this deal was how do we make it so that when he leaves, we're not bereft, but at the same time, when he leaves, he can't say, well, of course, they traded Kyrie Irving for bits and pieces. Right? It's a perfect insurance policy. It insures them against LeBron leaving, but it also insures them against any LeBron slander on the way out. Like, why'd you leave? Well, we took a step back after the Kyrie thing. Oh, no, we didn't. We got a guy who was just as good, and we added another guy. So in the short term, you can't say anything, and in the long term, when he does leave, they've got some coverage on that. But to me, Bo, I say it. The most interesting part about this deal is what does the East look like a year from now, assuming LeBron is gone, right? Are the Cavs with Isaiah Thomas and Kevin Love and the Nets pick, where does that put them in the East? Are the Celtics, we just lay down and let them go? Do the Bucks take another leap forward? Are the Raptors, have we written them off too quickly? Or the Miami Heat, or some of these other teams. So I feel like the landscape of the East is going to be really interesting a year from now when we expect LeBron to leave and probably come westward.
Now, if you're the Warriors, are you chuckling just looking at what's going on over there in the JV conference?
You're not even paying attention. Just like somebody tweeted, "Oh, this is a great deal for the Cavs. Now they got a guy who can guard Durant." And Andre Iguodala responds with just one word: "Who?" That's it. They're literally like, something happened? I didn't even notice. That's if you're the Warriors. That's good to be king, so to speak.
Well, it also is interesting we're talking to me and Elhassan of ESPN because I feel like in a couple of years is where the window opens up for the whole league because the Warriors can't keep this unit together salary-wise but for so long. Then after that, the Celtics, who were at once playing for now and trying to play for the future, and the Cavs at least feel like they'll put themselves in a position to reload, and the Bucks with that squad full of condors. This all gets really interesting, not just next year but the year after, I would say.
Right, absolutely. And obviously free agency and trade, they're going to switch these chairs around a million different ways. But I think the idea is you want to give yourself a fighting chance if you face the Warriors. But at the same time, in 2 years when contracts are up, and even if they say we'll keep those big four guys together and we'll pay whatever it takes, that's supporting cast. I mean, a lot of people overlook the contributions of that bench and all those other unheralded guys. And you might say, I could always find someone on minimum, but at some point you run out, of guys like that. But it's funny to me. Someone asked me on another radio station. They asked me, what does this mean for the Cavs against the Warriors? I said, well, it's kind of like climbing to the top of the Empire State Building and saying, look, I'm closer to the moon. You are closer to the moon. You are much closer than everybody else on the ground. That is true. You're still not quite there, though.
All right, we're talking to me and Elhassan of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, one thing I think is interesting about Boston, too, when people talk about them as championship contenders, is we're talking about a team trying to win a championship with its two best players as Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward. So, where do you stand on Hayward, at least fitting into this whole thing now with Boston?
He's obviously a massive upgrade over any wing they've had there pretty much since Paul Pierce was playing with Ray Allen. But, it's a nice kind of what I like about Boston is they have that. We don't have that one dude who's head and shoulders elite like LeBron or Durant or Curry, but we got a lot of dudes who can play, and I think that's important to be able to go 7, 8, 9 deep and not have any significant drop off in play, either offensively or defensively. I think that's key, and I think Gordon Hayward's a big part of that. He's an underrated defensive player. He's size-wise, he's a big kid. He's 6'8". A lot of people I don't think it really translates over the TV screen, but he played multiple positions there, passing, shooting, all that. And so the question becomes, how do he and Kyrie interact, and how easily and seamlessly do they fit into the offensive system? On paper, it looks great. But, obviously, as we all know, execution sometimes a little bit more difficult.
Just right fast, I'm going to demonstrate for the people the difference between half full and half empty. Your half full was describing the Celtics having a bunch of dudes who can play. My half empty is still a handful of low spades. It's a lot of low spades.
Again, in the Eastern Conference, it's good enough to get to the conference finals. It may be good enough to beat LeBron. It's nowhere near winning a championship. And the whole thing is, we say 2 years from now, they'll be sitting pretty, but Milwaukee might be a monster by then, and Minnesota might be a monster by then. And so the game continues to, in the words of Nate Dogg, whose birthday was a couple of days ago, you can catch the bus if you're running, but oh no, the game don't wait.
That is Amin Elhassan, ESPN NBA front office insider. My man, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
No problem.
All right, now, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, an underrated part of this trade for the Cavs that nobody's talking about but me. You're listening to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80.
Interesting, thought-provoking, or at the very least, entertaining. This is the most fascinating thing in the world today. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Sham Charania of Yahoo Sports will join us next segment. Sham Charania will join us at 5:30 Eastern and talk about how Kyrie's feelings toward Cleveland factored into this trade. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. We've been talking about the Kyrie Irving trade. Let's hit the phones and talk to Rob in Pennsylvania. Rob, thanks for calling The Right Time.
Hey, Bo. Thanks for taking my call. Hey, I want to switch gears and talk about Colin Kaepernick. The top story on ESPN.com right now is Hank Aaron thinks he's getting a raw deal. NAACP is requesting a meeting with Roger Goodell. So I got a comment and two quick questions. Number one, I guess I'm just a white guy from Pittsburgh, but heaven forbid an owner doesn't want to sign a guy that's a distraction. That's, to me, a basic how I look at it. Now, so my two questions. What does the NAACP look to accomplish by getting this meeting set up with Roger Goodell? And number two, the 12 Cleveland Browns players the other night, as they all took knees, what are they looking to accomplish in the long run? I mean, obviously they can keep on taking knees and everything and all that, but at the same time, are they waiting for a law to come out? I mean, I know they're increasing racial awareness, and I'm just wondering, at the end of the day, what are they looking to accomplish to get really done in this country? I mean, obviously racism is an issue, but at the same time, I don't understand. I'm just wondering if you could explain it to me.
I feel like you need to ask them. Thanks for the call, Rob. Shannon, we weren't even talking about that, was he?
But he seemed pretty worked up about it.
But I don't know how I'm supposed to answer them questions. I'm not them. Although he seemed to answer all his own questions after he asked them, did he? Did you peep that?
I will say, though, with his initial point, though, about the owners not wanting to bring in someone as a distraction, as we said many times on this show, and what was said by many of Kaepernick's former teammates and coaches, that Kaepernick was not, in fact, a distraction last season.
And also that dude's from Pittsburgh, and they signed Michael Vick. Remember that? And he was washed. He was so washed. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So we've been talking about this Kyrie to the Celtics trade. It's a big thing. It's rare you have a trade. Shannon, I'm trying to think the last time we had a trade with two names in it as big as those two, right? As Kyrie Irving and Isaiah Thomas. When's the last time we had a trade with two names that big?
Not to mention the names, but the fact that you had the two best teams in the conference,
right,
trading two of their better players.
Right, like we don't have a lot of precedent for a trade of this type, and therefore everybody's caught up in the players and everything else, and it's totally understandable. However, I feel like people are missing out on something really big here. Something really big that affects the Cavs in a great way. It affects chemistry, right? We always talk about chemistry. It affects chemistry. Shannon, Kevin Love finally got himself a friend on the team. His buddy from back at the crib, Isaiah Thomas.
Well, would you look at that?
Yeah, I mean, not fully the crib because Kevin Love's from like around Portland, Isaiah's from Seattle. But still, we saw that picture of them. You seen that picture of them back from AAU ball where Kevin Love is standing there and he's got his arm around Isaiah Thomas? You ought to check it out. It looks like a poster for the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. Like it looks like after right that picture looks like right at the end after Kevin Love is looking into the camera. Hi, I'm Kevin Love, NBA superstar. I like to give back to the youth. Sometimes their mamas just ain't no good, and that's why they call me. Come over here, little Isaiah. And then he puts his arm around him. Because there's like the pictures from when they're both 16 years old, but Kevin Love is already like 6'8", and Isaiah Thomas about as tall as he was ever going to be, right? Although for all I know, Isaiah Thomas had a growth spurt to get to 5'9". Who knows? He had to get there at the finish line. I don't know, but they showed that picture of Kevin Love with Isaiah Thomas, and it's just like you guys don't look like the same age at all. And Isaiah Thomas is giving this big old smile like, finally, someone believes in me. I don't want to be a statistic. And there they are. They're standing right there. So good for them, man. Good for Kevin Love to finally have somebody to hang out with. At least he think he got somebody to hang out with. But like, hey, Isaiah, you want to go kick it? Psh, man, I don't know you. This ain't high school. Come on now. Where you been? 888-729-3776. Let's hit the phones. Talk to Bob in Alabama. Bob, thanks for calling the right time.
How's it going, Bomani?
Doing all right, man.
I got one question for you. You keep saying the Celtics got the short end of the stick on this, but
Ooh,
we talk about top 3 bucket getters in the league. Where's Kyrie in that? Where's Kyrie fitting that?
Probably. I mean, if we're going to make it the top 3, he's up there. Like, no one has ever questioned Kyrie's ability to get buckets. I think you've heard me repeatedly say Kyrie Irving is the best ball handler that I've ever seen. I don't know if I want him running my offense. I don't know if I want him being the dude to bring the ball across half court. And we've seen what the numbers look. That Cavaliers team, and I appreciate the call, Bob, that Cavaliers team last year with Kyrie and no LeBron was abysmal. And the guys around him weren't that bad to explain the on-off numbers that go up that you get when you have Kyrie out there. Like, it's fair to raise questions about how good he is actually going to make that team. It is okay to ask that. And it was funny because it was also fair to ask the same question of Isaiah Thomas, where the on-off numbers were not so great for him either. So, yeah, Kyrie can get buckets. There's other stuff going on there, Shannon. I feel like all the people that's out here on the, Kyrie can get buckets. I want to know how they feel about Melo. Right? Because isn't that the knock always on Melo? He can get buckets, but what else?
And see, that's the thing, too, that kind of holds me back when putting Kyrie at that next level. The two things, actually. One, the defense, and then the other being his inability to get other guys involved. Like, Kyrie is so good with the ball, and this is to your point with Melo as well, that his teammates just stand there and watch.
And, by the way, part of them standing there and watching and knowing damn well he ain't going to give him the ball. There's that. All right, 888-729-3776. Let's hit the phones. Talk to Owen in New Jersey. Owen, thanks for calling the right time.
First of all, big fan. One day I'm going to have you on my podcast. That's my dream, man. Love you, dog.
Appreciate it, man.
Secondly, my local radio station drive me crazy. People out here talking about the Sixers are better than the Celtics, and the Celtics are better than the Cavs. And I'm like, who's doing drugs and where can I get some? They must be free today. I don't know what's going on, bro. Like, the Cavs are still going to the finals. Am I right? Are we all agreeing on that?
I'm still there,
what's going on.
I'm still there.
So, I mean, I just wanted to call and listen to somebody who made some sense, man. That's why I just let you, man, want to say hi, because I know you want to say it right behind bad. But over here, local Philadelphia radio, everybody in their mind like, oh, the Sixers are about to do it. I'm like, he about to hope to dream to be a 7th seed in the playoffs out here. So I was listening to the rest of the show, man. I just wanted to call and give you a little chuckle, bro.
Hey, Owen, I appreciate it, man. They ain't really talking about the Sixers better than the Celtics out there, are they?
It's a lot of trust.
They can't be there. Yeah. Whoa. That would be preposterous. Preposterous. All right, one last call. This is the phone talk to Ryan in Florida. Ryan, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, how you doing, Bomani?
Doing all right.
Hey, I just wanted to say that I think the Cavaliers won this trade. They traded 2-point guards that don't play defense, and they ended up getting back a defender who makes them much better in the short term. Not to mention, Isaiah Thomas's contract is coming up, and when LeBron leaves, they're going to need cap space with that number 1 pick that they also got.
Hey, it might be onto something there, Ryan. I appreciate the call. I was really just using you to eat up some time. Thanks for talking so I didn't have to. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, how did Kyrie Irving's feelings toward the Cavs factor into this trade? We'll talk to Charania of ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the right time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Our guest join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, just like our next guest. He covers the NBA for the Verical at Yahoo. His name is Shams Charania. Now, Shams, when did you get wind that these two teams are getting close on a deal?
Bomani, I appreciate the time. Appreciate you having me on. Yesterday when I put it out is when I felt comfortable going with it. But these two teams, everyone around the league has been blowing up Cleveland, blowing up their new general manager, Kobe Altman, on a deal. So this has been in the works for weeks. But when I put it out is when I first felt comfortable with it, that it was real, that it was happening.
Now, did this exceed the expectations of what Cleveland thought they could get back for Kyrie?
Well, for weeks, and I report on it, and I've talked about it. The major sticking point has been Jason Tatum, who the Celtics drafted 3rd overall in this past June draft, and that was a major discussion. Would Boston give up Jason Tatum in his potential deal? That's what Cleveland had been holding out for. I know even as soon as this weekend, it was a major sticking point in these discussions. And Boston obviously did not want to part with Jason Tatum. They see Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart as a part of the future, along with Gordon Hayward Al Horford, and now you bring Kyrie Irving into the fold. They did not want to part with those guys. So to get Kyrie Irving, and I think both sides really won out, but to get Kyrie Irving and not have to give up Tatum, I think that's all Boston wanted, and obviously they had to forfeit a very lucrative and attractive pick, but that's a trade-off that they had to do.
All right, talking to Charania of the Vertical at Yahoo here on the right time. Now, from the sounds of it, the Celtics, the Cavs were most concerned with building for the future in that trade. Is that the best way to look at it?
You could say that just because they got the pick, but Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, these are guys you win with, this upcoming season, as long as Isaiah Thomas can come back healthy, which people close to him are confident that his hip will check out as these months progress. And, it's going to be a slow grind for him coming back from this hip injury. It's not an easy one to come back from, especially at the age he's at, in the middle of his prime. But I think they're in a position where they can win now and then also build for the future. Jay Crowder is arguably, the most valuable player in the league if you consider the contract that he's on. So that's a asset that the Cavs could utilize not just this upcoming season, but years moving forward. I mean, they have 3 years left on his deal at a reasonably good number considering these contracts that are coming out. So I think both teams really won out.
Now, were the Cavaliers hell-bent on getting Kyrie traded before the start of training camp?
They were, and, I was told that they had, the team's going to have a mini camp in Santa Barbara, and, they invited everyone on the team, but there wasn't an expectation that Kyrie Irving would show up. And I think these two teams, in talking to owners around the league, ownership level, this is not a major deal. They could have brought Kyrie into camp, without major issue. LeBron James was fine playing with whoever showed up to camp, whether it was Kyrie Irving or now you're going to get Isaiah Thomas, Jay Crowder, and Ante Zizic. But I think it was important for them not to have to deal with this issue going into the season. You lose a preseason game, regular season games, this issue was going to pop up all season long. And it was clear, and Kyrie made it clear in his meeting with them which direction he wanted it to go, and he got the outcome he wanted yesterday.
All right, talking to Charania of the Vertical at Yahoo here on the right time. Now, do we have any idea what input LeBron did or did not have in this?
LeBron James is always going to have a level of input over everything Cleveland does. Nothing they do has gone out without him knowing, without his presence looming over the franchise, as it should. He's arguably the best player in the league. But to my knowledge and everything that I've been told is that with this Kyrie Irving situation, this is a Kyrie Irving story. I don't think this is a LeBron story as much as it was a Kyrie Irving story, in that he's the one that had the meeting with Dan Gilbert, made his feelings known, and it was up to Dan Gilbert, Kobe Altman to make the next move. And I think LeBron, I think he stepped aside and allowed the owner of this team, at the end of the day, Dan Gilbert, to make his decision.
All right, talking to Charania of the Vertical at Yahoo here on the right time. Now, looking at this from the Celtics end of things, did they have any apprehensions about trading for Kyrie Irving? Or was this just one they absolutely felt like they had to do?
No, Boston has a lot of assets. Not only now, they've been sitting on tons of assets. If you look back at all the Brooklyn picks they've acquired, all the young players that they've acquired, and even getting Isaiah Thomas in that trade with Phoenix a couple of years ago, I mean, that was a win. No one thought that Isaiah Thomas would become the player he is today. So that was a win in of itself. You're going to have to give a little bit to get, and giving up that pick is going to be an attractive pick next year. Brooklyn isn't going to, probably not going to be a playoff team. It's going to be potentially a high lottery pick. And then you give up Isaiah Thomas, whose production was pretty much on par with Kyrie's, and then Jay Crowder, who can defend positions 1 through 5. So you have to give to get, but I think Boston should be ecstatic. You have arguably the most potent starting 5 in the East. You bring in Kyrie Irving into the fold with Gordon Hayward, Al Horford. You're keeping Jaylen Brown. You have Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart. Terry Rozier is still a member of this team, a young guard that they have faith in. So to keep the guys that they've kept and still get Kyrie Irving, you're going to need to give a little bit. And I think they move forward with the best trade that I think Cleveland could have acquired, the assets that they could have acquired. And for them, you just get a player that now you position yourself in realistically being a threat to compete in the NBA Finals next year.
Now, we had gotten reports that come out a few weeks ago that Kyrie had a list of teams that he wanted to go to, and Boston was not on that list as it was initially reported. Did he have to be convinced of this, or is this just another team that maybe we did not know about publicly?
No, I mean, listen, Kyrie Irving can decide I want this amount of teams, but at the end of the day, Cleveland holds the leverage. The team trading for him holds the leverage. He's under contract under the old CBA maximum contract for the next 2 years. I don't think he's going to extend. There's been no discussion of that to this point. He's going to play out these next 2 years and see how the Celtics fit him, how he likes the city, how he likes the franchise, and play it out. But I don't think he had some apprehension about coming. I think he was excited. I think when he got word of the trade, I mean, listen, Boston and Cleveland, this is going to be a collision course to the finals. I think, Washington, the Wizards are the one team you really can see sneaking in, up on either of those teams. They're able to keep Otto Porter. They still have John Wall, Bradley Beal. They still have a really potent team, but, I mean, you got to look at it. Kyrie Irving, LeBron, this is a collision course to me in the East.
Now, looking at that as a collision course, it's on Charania of the Vertical at Yahoo. For the Cavs, I mean, the season is about to start, but this seems like a team that's still going to need more. Could you still see them making a deal during the season to try to fortify to gear up against Golden State, because the East is not just their goal?
I could see it, but there's not much. If you look at free agency, there isn't much there. They don't have the asset. They gave up their most valued asset in Kyrie Irving. If you look at a guy that may have a potential in a return, it's a guy maybe like Iman Shumpert, who they were really close to moving to Houston during the offseason in July. But outside of Iman Shumpert, I just don't see a player on this roster that holds the value for you to get a return. Maybe they go out and sign a free agent after they make a few releases in training camp. But I just don't see any type of asset for them on the roster to get a valuable return like you mentioned.
Now, you think Dwayne Wade has enough left to do anything for him?
I saw Dwayne Wade enough in Chicago to see that he still had flashes in him to perform at a high level in spurts. Now, of course, if he gets a buyout, you'd imagine Cleveland would jump to the top of the list. I think he'd consider several teams. Every contender would be in the mix for him. Just like when Jamal Crawford got his buyout from Atlanta, I think Jamal Crawford had his pick to choose, his teams to choose from. I think Dwayne Wade would be in the same scenario. Cleveland, you'd imagine, would be a front runner, but again, he'll have his teams to choose from. And I don't think the Bulls and Dwayne Wade have gotten far down the line at all on an extension. I think that's still in the relative infancy of the talks.
All right, that's Charania. Check him out, covering the NBA at the Vertical at Yahoo. My man, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir, Bomani. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, man, you have a good one. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Charania of Yahoo Sports for joining us last segment. Aaron Goldhammer of ESPN Radio in Cleveland will join us next segment. Aaron Goldhammer will join us at 6 o'clock Eastern, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. And Shannon, did Shams jump immediately to the top of our You Ain't Think He Sound Like That power rankings?
Oh, he's right up there.
He's there.
He's towards the top. Absolutely.
He's there. I still want to hear from Tyus and Quincy Washington. The sons of our man in Missouri. I see if they can start calling in, they might wind up being the kings of this whole thing. All right, we've been talking about that Cavs-Celtics trade. Let's hit the phones to talk to Gabriel in Pennsylvania. Gabriel, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, how you doing? I'm a big fan, man.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to say I think that Danny Ainge is really trying to bite off too much he can chew. Like, I feel like he's trying to get his red hour back on with, like, these crazy trades. And it worked for him, when he got rid of, like, Paul Pierce and them for that Brooklyn John. But I don't think it's going to work out with this one. I mean, they haven't gotten any better. They haven't gotten any better, and they won't get any better. But, yeah, that's all I got. I just want to say I'm a big fan, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. It shouldn't have said from Pennsylvania there. It should have said Gabriel from Philly because he said John. John is a clear Philly side. Oh, boy. Shaddy, you ready? 888-729-3776. Coach Francis, what's going on, man? Yo.
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
Hey, Bo. Hi. I didn't hear the intro. Hey, how y'all doing?
Doing all right.
Yeah,
man.
I like the trade, man, because there's a little Duke University connection going on between him and Tatum. And, Boston has gotten younger, giving up Crowder and Isaiah, and they've always had Rozier. He's been there for like 4 or 5 years. Cleveland's got their thing going on, too. But the thing about it is, Kyrie is going to be a better point guard, I think, because now he doesn't have anybody telling him what to do. And I've never seen a professional athlete who's unhappy play well. So it was time for him to go. I mean, that's just my take on it. And I got a question for you, a little hot poll. Between the Jets, Buffalo, and Miami, will Cleveland win more games between either one of those teams?
That's an interesting question. I appreciate the call, my man. I didn't really understand the question, Shannon, did you?
I guess he's saying of those teams, which one's going to have the most wins?
Buffalo, Jets, and Miami?
Yeah.
Ew, Miami?
I would have went with yes.
I mean, it ain't the Jets. Like, that's all I know is it ain't the Jets. In Buffalo, we could go play receiver for Buffalo if we wanted to. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. And we'll do one more. Wayne in South Dakota. Wayne, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bomani, great to talk to you.
Thank you, man.
I've got a John Elway page in my book of sports. He got lucky with getting rid of Tebow. Everybody wanted Tebow to be the quarterback. They said, hey, look what I got. I got Peyton Manning. So we'll just push him out the door. Peyton Manning walks in. You know, Danny Ainge didn't want to pay $30 million to a 5'8" guy who's going to be 29 years old. So look what we got. We got Kyrie Irving, and everybody's going to be upset for a little while, but in the long run, they're going to say, yeah, that probably did work out well.
No, I'll tell you, that is an interesting parallel, Wayne. I appreciate the call, and I do think that there is, in fact, something to that. Although, Shannon, I think the decision to trade, to get rid of Tim Tebow, they did trade him. To get rid of him to bring in Peyton Manning, a lot simpler than this Kyrie Isaiah Thomas one. Although maybe not, because only one of them is 5'9".
Way simpler.
Way simpler. All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Right fast. The Browns. Yeah, we're going to talk about them. Just to make you feel better about your football team. Anyway, DeShone Kizer looks like will be the starting quarterback in their third preseason game, which says a lot about whether or not DeShone Kizer is going to be the starter for the first game of the regular season. And it seems that the Browns are thinking about trading Brock Osweiler, except the problem is, Shannon, his money guaranteed this year and next year. And that just makes me ask one question. Who is Brock Osweiler's agent, and can he represent me?
Yeah, those trade negotiations those are going to be easy. The answer is going to be for who, for what. There you go. For whom, for what.
Who's out there? Who is still falling for looks the part guy and then being like, yeah, that's what I need. Bring me that guy. Please do. Who's doing that? Seriously. Who's doing that?
And see, the thing you don't hear with Osweiler, like with some quarterbacks, even if they struggle on the field, you'll usually get, well, at least he's a good locker room guy. You know, he's a guy, he knows the playbook, he's solid. Nah, you don't get any of that from Osweiler.
None of that. All it is we ask him to read stuff off the high shelves. By the way, I just saw this randomly flipping through Twitter. You need a laugh. Some dude named Brad, Anquan Bolden, thought it would be easier to end racism than it would be to end the Bills' playoff drought.
Wow.
That is kind of what happened, though, isn't it? Just a little bit. 888-729-3776. Let's talk to Adam in Atlanta. Adam, thanks for calling the right time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Yes,
I just wanted to talk quick. I'm a big Boston Celtics fan. I still feel like we might have given up much, but I think the one thing that's different than talks with Jimmy Butler and Paul George is you kind of already knew what those guys were. They kind of already hit their peak. I think getting Kyrie at 25, you know, the ceiling's still high. You know, he could turn around like Westbrook did this year and not average a triple-double, but be able to take that next step like when Kevin Durant left him in OKC. And so that's why I'm sad to see Isaiah go. I loved it. It was a fun season. But I think Kyrie can be that guy to help get us over the top.
Now, I think that raises – I think you made some interesting points there, and I appreciate the call. Like, I see the point. If you're going to take Kyrie or Isaiah Thomas, I think you take Kyrie, right? I totally get that. If that's the move that you are going to make, I'm just still not sure how much better that actually makes either team here. But I guess for the Cavs, not getting worse is a victory in and of itself. For the Celtics, I think getting better would have been a necessity, but they got a future to think about.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. On the line with us now, check him out on ESPN Radio in Cleveland. We have him on in times like these. His name is Aaron Goldhammer. So, Aaron, how you guys feeling about the trade?
Well, Bomani, it's been an exhausting day for us in Cleveland. Not only are we reacting to this trade, but also the Browns. You know, it looks like Deshaun Kaiser, the rookie, is going to be the starting quarterback. You know, the Browns are always a hot topic here. So there's been a lot going on in the Cleveland sports world. And I think people in Cleveland today, the shock of Kyrie being gone has worn off a little bit. And they're pretty excited about Isaiah coming in here. He's an electric offensive player. You get a little toughness and grit, which I think they needed last year to defend the Warriors and Jay Crowder. And then I think maybe the biggest, most exciting piece of this whole deal is that Brooklyn pick in 2018, which with our lottery luck could be the number one pick in the 2018 draft. I think that's a pretty good haul for Kyrie Irving. So all in all, it's not like some big pall is hanging over Cleveland today, even though Kyrie's no longer with the team.
You realize that's the first time anyone has ever made reference to Cleveland and sports luck being good in the same sentence?
Well, dude, we hit the lottery
I know.
3 out of the 4 years.
I know.
That's the definition of luck.
I know. I'm just glad y'all can finally see some glass half full in this, right? Like at a different point, y'all wouldn't have viewed it in that way. We're talking to Aaron Goldhammer of ESPN Radio in Cleveland. Now, you said the shock of Kyrie being gone. I guess I'm surprised to hear that it was a shock given that we knew that this was coming.
You know, I think there were a lot of people, Bomani, who after Brian Windhurst and Dave McMenamin gave this report a number of weeks ago, were just in denial about the whole situation. And they thought that Kyrie was going to end up coming to training camp and he and LeBron were going to powwow together at some Nike event in somewhere on the planet and that they'd figure this thing out and that they'd end up being together going forward and they'd play this season and have a chance to win another championship together. But deep in the Cavs organization, I think they knew how real his trade demand was. There was a report today that Kyrie was not planning on showing up for training camp and media day if the Cavs hadn't traded him. So there was a little bit of a clock working in this thing. But it's also, I'll say this, when a guy demands a trade, like you still go to the team website and his name's on the roster page. And to see the pictures floating around of Kyrie wearing the green and white of the Celtics is a shock to the system. And it would be, I think, to any sports fan base. So while this was out there, I think that's where the surprise and the hurt in it lies. You know, remember, Kyrie, no matter what happens, has an indelible place in Cleveland sports history. He hit the biggest shot in Cleveland basketball history, maybe one of the 10 biggest shots in NBA history with a minute to go in Game 7 of the 2016 finals. He'll probably have his number retired, no doubt. He's probably going to the Hall of Fame. There may be a Kyrie statue, a street named after Kyrie in Cleveland. You know, so this is different than LeBron leaving because he won Cleveland a championship, and there was a lot of thank you in the air today, in addition to some disappointment and some excitement. It's all kind of wrapped up into one.
We're talking to Aaron Goldhammer of ESPN Radio in Cleveland. Speaking of LeBron leaving, are you guys ready to talk about that possibility, or are you guys holding off till you have to?
Sure. I mean, I think everybody here understands the reality that LeBron may leave and go to L.A. We know where there's smoke, there's fire. We've been through this before. But, Monty, here's the thing I don't like. I don't like the game playing that's gone on social media with LeBron. I think it's immature. I think it's high school behavior. And tweeting, happy birthday, Magic Johnson, and all that stuff. He knows. He's savvy enough and smart enough to know the conversation that's going to start throughout the entire sports landscape around the globe. And I just feel like if he's planning on leaving or he thinks he might leave, that's fine. But you're kind of rubbing our faces in it again. And I don't appreciate that. And I think most Cleveland sports fans are exhausted with this. We've been on this roller coaster for good and bad. And you can say, like, I love LeBron and I appreciate everything he's done for Northeast Ohio, but also acknowledge that the roller coaster is exhausting. But everybody here realizes that he may go to L.A. I don't think anybody knows with 100% certainty what LeBron's going to do. Here's the way I'd put this, Bomani. If you told me 6 weeks ago that Kyrie was going to be a Celtic, I'd have said that you're insane. And so Now you're asking me to project what's going to happen to LeBron 11 months from now? I don't know. The Cavs might have a championship. They might have gotten knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. LeBron might tear his ACL on opening night. I can't speculate on where he's going to sign next July. But, yes, everybody in Cleveland is real to the possibility that he could walk away.
All right, we're talking to Aaron Goldhammer, ESPN Radio in Cleveland here on The Right Time. Now, back to Kyrie going to Boston. Were you surprised that the Cavs would make a trade with their primary rival in the conference?
Yes, and I think that showed some real chutzpah on the part of Dan Gilbert and general manager Kobe Altman. Because if Kyrie beats you in the playoffs this year, it's going to be awfully difficult for you to stomach that. On the other hand, I think the Cavs feel confidence in LeBron. I hope they've done medical digging on Isaiah Thomas's hip, and they feel pretty good that he's going to be a good player for this year. He's not under contract beyond that. So I'm not that worried about Isaiah in his age 34 season and whether or not he's going to still be in the NBA. And they get Jay Crowder. I think they feel like as long as we've got LeBron, we're confident that we could get past Kyrie and the Celtics, even if they are the most formidable test that LeBron has seen in the East since probably Derrick Rose's Bulls a couple years ago.
Now, what do the Cavs still need?
The Cavs need defense, Bomani. They need guys that can guard people. Jay Crowder was a help, but man, oh man, Isaiah Thomas can't guard me, I don't think. And, I did score 4 points a game on my JCC team back in my 8th grade season, but he's the worst defensive player, I think, in the entire NBA. And that leaves them very vulnerable against, let's face it, this is all about trying to beat the Warriors. So the Cavs are going to have to come up with some defensive options. I think the other thing to watch is what they do with that Brooklyn pick, because I think they're going to be tempted to keep it and to want to use it to rebuild for the future. If LeBron does leave and walk out the door, Cavalier basketball, despite what a lot of people think, will go on beyond the scope of LeBron James. So the Cavs have to prepare for that real possibility just like the fans do. But I also know Dan Gilbert, and I wonder if at the deadline an opportunity comes up to deal for another all-star, if he's going to be tempted to parlay that pick and a trade exception together and bring in another player. That's going to be a big wait and see as we head through this season.
Well, where are you on this? We're on to Aaron Goldhammer of ESPN Radio in Cleveland, because I feel like the window you have is the only window that matters, and you need to go hard at this chance. You got 1 year left of LeBron. Even if the pick pans out to be a great player, your best chance is probably with a prime LeBron.
I would agree, and I think it totally depends on who is available. I don't know what stars are left and how they would fit in this mix. Like, if Oklahoma City's season totally went off the rails for some reason, Westbrook or George got hurt and you could trade for one or the other, I think the Cavs would have to really think about doing that and using the Brooklyn pick in order to make that happen. And I think how Brooklyn is doing during the season is going to impact that too. If they're better than everyone expects and that pick is fewer lotto balls, I don't know what its value really is. If they're terrible and they have 4 wins at the trade deadline and they're going to have the highest percentage of getting the number 1 pick, the Cavs are going to do better. So I can't decide what to do with that draft pick until I figure out who exactly is available. There were people speculating today about Marc Gasol and the situation in Memphis. I got to see what his health looks like. I'm not sure a guy like Marc Gasol really helps you all that much against the small ball lineup in the Warriors. So I think it totally depends on who's available and how the next 6 months or so play out in the league.
All right, that is Aaron Goldhammer. Check him out at ESPN Radio in Cleveland. Thanks so much for joining us, my man. I appreciate it.
You got it, bro. Talk soon.
All right, now, The Right Time is brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics. Taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today.
Nothing makes you feel better than jamming to the song you haven't heard in a while. The Right Time with Bomani Jones presents the Old Soul Song of the Day.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. Thanks to Aaron Goldhammer of ESPN Radio in Cleveland for joining us the last segment. That's the Old Soul Song of the Day. Shannon picked it out. Shannon, tell them what the name of this song is.
K-O-B-E.
Who's the artist?
By Kobe Bryant and Tyra Banks. Well, Kobe Bryant featuring Tyra Banks.
Yeah. You picked this out yourself, Shannon. It's Kobe Bryant's 39th birthday today. Aren't you excited? Did you call him and tell him happy birthday?
I just wanted to send a special, very special happy birthday shout out to the Snake. The one and only. Kobe.
Did you call him the Snake?
That's what it is, right?
Oh, man. Shout out to Chris Childs. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. We've been talking about this Kyrie to the Celtics trade. Let's hit the phones and talk to Justin in Ohio. Justin, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, Bo, what's going on, baby? How you doing?
Doing all right, man.
Hey, I just want to, first of all, say, man, you're the man when you disarm all them haters who call you. You kill them, and they have no response, so I appreciate that
Thank you,
you.
man.
But interesting thing about this whole trade that I don't think people are talking about is now that they have a little more cap room, the luxury tax number is down a little bit, and now you look at the roster, we have a whole lot of assets. Are they all-stars? Maybe not, but they're still very good assets. So I think that sets up real well, kind of like what Aaron was saying, for a mid-season trade that could do very well for LeBron and then the Cavs making a run to going towards the playoffs. So that's all I wanted to say, man. You stay up, and thanks for all your hard work.
Hey, man, I appreciate that, man. And I do think that's an interesting level to the thing with the Brooklyn pick is that can be packaged with something else and turned into a player, all depending upon what the time horizon is in Dan Gilbert's mind. If Dan Gilbert gets on some right now, not now, but right now, then that pick will wind up going somewhere. Like, that's the piece to get. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. So, yes, the Celtics and the Cavs are over there making trades with each other. They're supposed to be rivals, right? But both of them in a situation where they're like, look, you can help me get ready for the future. You can help me get ready for the future. Let's put our petty differences aside, and let's do something to help each of us get ready for the future. But, Shannon, correct me if I'm wrong, but is this not the clearest sign that the NBA is like, y'all got this, Warriors? We worried about tomorrow.
Yeah, no, we'll take care of this. When's Draymond's contract up? When's Clay due for a new deal?
Yeah, I think the first one is up in 2 years. They got 2 years. Whichever one of them is first is up first. I think it's Clay that's up first. And that's when we start, like, shuffling the deck on what happens over there, right? But they got to be laughing at the East. They're like, look at that. Neither one of y'all got any better, but y'all so excited. Meanwhile, Kevin Durant over here being 7 feet tall, playing small forward. Steph Curry over here being the best shooter of all time. Draymond Green, being Draymond. Hopefully it won't get arrested. Again. I really feel like, though, like that's where they are head and shoulders over everyone else. That the Cavs and the Celtics basically rearrange things. Hey, let me get your defensively lacking point guard, and we'll give you our defensively lacking point guard. And they're like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this, right? And then the Celtics, who they're good defensive players. And the Celtics were not a great defensive team last year, if I'm not mistaken. Let me go ahead and make sure I got the numbers right on that. But I don't recall them on the per-possession numbers being a great defensive team last year. But Avery Bradley's a really good defensive player. He doesn't play there anymore. Jay Crowder's a good defensive player. He doesn't play there anymore. But and by the way, they were 13th in points allowed per possession. So they're an okay defensive team. But Shannon, tell me this about Jay Crowder. I don't know if you got a better idea of this than I do. Is he actually a good defensive player, or is he like the dude on the team you always got to say is good at defense?
Yes. No, I do think he is actually a good defensive player, and his size helps. The fact that he can guard probably 1 through 3. So I would say, yeah, he's a good defensive player, yeah.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to be honest. There was but so much I could do. Also, he shot 5.5 threes a game last year at 40%. Like, that was the other thing about them losing Avery Bradley. Avery Bradley shot 5 threes a game last year at 39%. So, like, you replace that with Gordon Hayward, and Gordon Hayward is probably a better player than Avery Bradley, but how much of an upgrade is Gordon Hayward over Avery Bradley, for example? Like, how much of an upgrade is Kyrie over Isaiah Thomas? What are you losing when Jay Crowder goes away? Like, these are the questions I have, because the Celtics won like 53 games last year. Now, all that being said, I think we had Gary Washbrun on a little earlier. He says they only got 4 guys on the team left who were there last year. So I guess that's what? Al Horford, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown. Shannon, I don't know the fourth because Olenek doesn't play for them anymore, does he? Terry Rozier.
Rozier is the fourth.
Those are all the guys that were there from last year. So then we add the new guys in there. I don't know how much better you've actually made this team. That's my question. How much better are they? I don't know if the Cavs got any better. Well, I feel like, okay, I feel like the Cavs got Jay Crowder, which is something they did not have. But I don't feel like it's going to take them like up to 57 wins or something like that necessarily. Like, how much better did they really get? And the Warriors are like, well, he didn't really have to get better, but, we could.
I can understand, though, why Boston wanted to drastically change the team, because we would both agree that they were pretty limited last year.
Yes.
Like, although they won the East, had the best record in the East in the regular season, they were limited. So they got to try to switch it up and change everything. And I agree. I do think that Kyrie's an upgrade over Isaiah, and Gordon Hayward, he can give you something. So they had to change their identity. So they're not going to be anywhere near as good defensively as they were last year.
Yeah, I think that's fair, but I'm still, the question still remains. How much better really are they, though? Because they needed to be a lot better to compete for a championship this year. Have they just decided that we're not worried about that, we're just trying to win the East? Because I feel like the rest of the league did go kind of all out on some, look, we kind of got to get there. But I guess that's how it felt at the time, right, Shannon? Because the Cavs didn't make the big move that we thought that they needed to make. Houston made the big move, right? Houston got Chris Paul. Houston made the big move to try to compete with Golden State. San Antonio decided, nah, we're good. Oklahoma City, at the very least, made a big move. I don't think it's a big move to compete with the Warriors necessarily, but they made that big play. I guess this is Boston's big play, but I feel like Oklahoma City was so much farther away that their big play could only put them so close. You would think that Boston, if they were making a big play, would make a big play that would get them closer to the ring than the play that they made.
And also, they would make a big play that didn't include the one team that they're competing against in the East.
Yes. Like, only one of y'all can be right. You know what I'm saying? Like, trades are generally not zero-sum propositions, but are they zero-sum propositions when it's the number one and number two team in the conference making the trade? Like, does it become zero-sum by definition at that point? Because I feel like it became zero-sum right there. All right, 888-729-3776. Let's talk to PJ in Virginia. PJ, thanks for calling the right time.
Thanks, Bomani. I just had a quick comment. I actually found myself last night in a weird position. I actually think that Cleveland has gotten better with the pickup of Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder. I actually think they're better than going to State now because of their depth. And I actually found myself in a weird position having to stop and actually give Dan Gilbert credit. Like, he's actually doing a good job. And I found that to be really weird,
Well, I do have to say this, and I appreciate the call, that I do think they got more out of that trade than I would have expected for them to get. So, yes. But where you say Cleveland got better than Golden State, I'm going to tell you this one time. You want to keep working here? Stay off the drugs. 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Let's go to commercial. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Coming up next, I guess we're going to keep talking about that trade. Yeah, that sounds about right. You listen to ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the right time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. By the way, you guys get a bonus half hour at the right time. We're going until 7:30 today. Yeah. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. While I'm thinking about it, they just said on the update about Brock Osweiler that the Browns want to trade him, but what's standing in the way is that $16 million that he's guaranteed next year on top of the money he's guaranteed this year. And, Shannon, I believe you made the best point about that being the holdup.
Nah, the main holdup was his play on the field because he is awful.
Right. Like, let me tell you this. If Alex Smith was available for trade, do you think somebody would be up there trying to make it happen? Because I think somebody would.
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt.
For $16 million. So if someone would trade for Alex Smith at those prices and not you, it ain't just the price tag, baby. It's the limit it's attached to. All right, 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Just a thought here right fast about the whole Kyrie Irving trade situation, right? Just going back to some of the reasons why Kyrie wanted to leave Cleveland. Now, to me, if Kyrie just decided that he wanted to be on a team where he was the man, I'd get that. But we keep talking about how, well, it wasn't what Kyrie thought he was signing up for because Kyrie signed his deal, and the next thing you knew, LeBron signed like less than 2 weeks later. He thought it was going to be his team, and then it wasn't his team, and he wants it to be his team. And I'm like, look, if you want it to be your team, that's fine. That being said, Do you realize that what you're pointing out there is the equivalent of saying that Gordon Hayward should be salty when Kyrie shows up because Gordon Hayward thought it was going to be his team, except none of us really thought that it was going to be Gordon Hayward's team. And I think there is an argument to be made that Gordon Hayward is a better player than Kyrie Irving. You understand what I'm saying here? Like I worry to a degree here that if Kyrie's thing was he wanted it to be his team, it's your team now, man. You get everything that comes with it being your team. And it's your team in a city that now has expectations of what this team should be. It's a city with people, I think, who believe that if you're going to bring in a guy like Kyrie Irving in the way that folks view him, that this should be a team that now is not just competing to win the East, but a team that should win the East. Yeah, you get to be the man on the team now. The difference between now and Cleveland, though, was that in Cleveland he understood that even while they were winning or really good, if something went wrong, he was going to be the first place to look because people weren't going to look to LeBron. Well, now you get all the pressure of being the man, and when something goes wrong, you're still going to be the first place they look. They're not going to look at Gordon Hayward because Gordon Hayward isn't that caliber of player that you look at him in that way. So Kyrie's going to get a whole lot of the stresses of being the man that he did have to deal with before, and also the ones that he didn't have to deal with before. Yeah, good luck with that, man. Like, seriously, good luck with that. And I think it could work out well. There's a great possibility. This team could wind up making the finals. They'll get smoked if they do, but I'm not going to say they can't make the finals. But they were a long way away from being where Cleveland was last year. And Cleveland doesn't really look right now to be in a terribly different position than they were last year. Now, again, the Celtics have turned over a lot of their roster. They only got 4 guys left from last year. They've turned over a lot. But I don't know how much that turnover was really geared toward making them better for the coming season. And I have but so much of a vision in the NBA for the future when you have a hell of a chance at the right now. Although, Shannon, I guess I am also saying they don't really have a hell of a chance at the right now because I don't think they're going to be as good as the Warriors. Like, the Warriors got everybody on holding pattern.
Like, the entire league, they're just going to have to wait this out. They're just going to have to let this Warriors storm pass and just prepare themselves in the next, after the next 2 seasons?
Yeah, but at the same time, even with that said, I mean, the Cavs lost in 5 this year to Golden State, but I mean, we saw, like, those last 3, they gave them a push, right? We saw Oklahoma City take Golden State to 7 the year they won the 73 games. We saw the Cavs win that series against them the year they won the 73 games. We saw Golden State not look so great in that first championship run. So, like, as much as we think they're so much better than everybody else, are they really just totally inconquerable? Like, are they a team that nobody could beat in 4 out of 7? Like, I do think that, it's unlikely anybody to be able to put up as good a record over 82. But in 7? Do we really think nobody has a chance at them in 7? Like, I don't know what Houston is going to do, for example. I'm fascinated by what that situation is going to be. We really saying that's a team that really couldn't, like, give them something for 7? That's what we're saying, isn't it? Yeah.
What are we looking like? What are we looking at, honestly, as far as teams around the league that can give the Warriors a run? What is it? Houston,
Cleveland.
Houston, Cleveland. Houston.
Okay, San Antonio.
Cleveland. Okay, San Antonio.
But, I mean, keep it in mind, the San Antonio that we saw was the San Antonio without Kawhi Leonard. And granted, it was 1 game, but when they had Kawhi Leonard, they were blowing their doors off. Right? Is there a chance that maybe they're a team that could do it?
But see, that San Antonio thing, a lot of that's going to have to come down to how much do you trust
LaMarcus Aldridge?
Yes.
I mean, like I said, I feel like you can trust LaMarcus Aldridge if he's not number 1, maybe. Right? Can you trust him to be number 2? Can you do that? Like, I don't know. I guess on one hand, yes, I think the Warriors are absolutely the class of the league. But I also, that style of play they have, I'm still not so wild about shooting all those threes and all the variance that can come from that, except they're so good at shooting threes that the variance almost becomes irrelevant. But I still think that they are a team that somebody can beat in a best of 7. Even if I don't, exactly, know who this team is I'm talking about. League got 32 teams. I'm still here talking about 30 teams, rather. I'm still here talking about a hypothetical. Just trying to make the league intriguing. Do them apart, Adam Silver. Do them apart.
Like, I guess the more intriguing question would be not the team who can give the Warriors the best chance to beat the Warriors this year. Is which team is best suited in 2 years to take over when the Warriors will probably lose a couple of their best players.
We're assuming that, by the way. Watch the Warriors mess around and pass the hat. Klay Thompson, I've decided to re-sign for $4 million a year. We will also be signing Freaky Greeky. Well, Sean Livingston's contract was up. It was time for him to go. We need to replace him with another tall point guard. So we went and got Giannis. Hey, baseball season rolls along. Tune in tonight as the Astros host the Nationals, presented by Indeed.com. Coverage begins at 7:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. 888-729-3776. Let's hit the phone and talk to Adam in Pennsylvania. Adam, thanks for calling the right time.
Hey, what's up, Bomani? How you doing?
Doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I love the NBA that we're talking about it in late August with NFL preseason going on, and there's nothing more entertaining than when the NBA gets petty. And I don't think either team got better in this trade, but they sure as hell got pettier, and we're all going to get benefit from that on opening night.
Yeah, you are right about that, and I appreciate the call. There will be petty. Opening night will have lots of petty. Shady, you think LeBron going to talk to Kyrie about that little wedding video?
Nah, that's water under the bridge now. He's just focused on taking this one day at a time. He's not focused on those other things.
I mean, it's one thing to be throwing shade at me, but you out here throwing shade at me with the enemy, bruh. You still on the team, and you ain't on a team. Yeah.
Well, coming up next, and if you haven't heard, there's a possibility that may have happened.
888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. Coming up next, we will follow up on Shannon's wonderful textbook tease on ESPN Radio, the ESPN app, Sirius XM Channel 80. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the right time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We'll talk to Mike Sando of ESPN next segment. Mike Sando of ESPN about his list of the tiers of quarterbacks in the NFL. 888-729-3776. That is our telephone number. All right, Shannon, what we miss out on today?
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. Now, if you haven't heard.
So, of course, the big news is still the Kyrie Irving-Isaiah Thomas trade. And if you haven't heard, here's Bomani Jones, earlier today on the right time, discussing the trade. And do we really have to determine a winner?
Cleveland Cavaliers now have Isaiah Thomas. Hey, and how does this go? Like, for the Cavs, how exactly does this go? Apparently, the Cavs were concerned that Kyrie Irving didn't even want to come to training camp in the first place. Like, this was a wrap. The bridge been burnt. Ship be sinking. Time was up. So they went ahead and made the move. I have to say, I think they got more out of that move than I ever thought they would have been able to get in a trade for Kyrie, right? So, like, credit to Kobe Altman, the new dude on the team who doesn't look the way you might have thought he did if you've seen his resume and seen his name. But anyway, Kobe made a good deal. But for the Cavs, I can make an argument that this is as much as they could expect to get in a trade for Kyrie Irving. They got some additional depth on the wing, which is important, because otherwise, Shannon, wouldn't they be coming out there with Richard Jefferson getting some significant minutes?
I mean, who do you got? You got what? Shump and Shump, still JR, and Richard Jefferson, right? That would have been
bad news. I think that would have been bad news. Is that the best way to put it? Did you miss anybody?
I'm thinking that's it.
Kyle
right?
Korver.
Oh, wow. Ooh. Oh, I forgot about Kyle Korver since he disappeared in the finals.
Yes.
Forgot all about him.
Yes, Kyle Korver in year 15, by the way. Kyle Korver. Yeah, no. So, like, getting Jay Crowder, that one matters. Like, I think that's a helpful piece to have. Isaiah Thomas, I'll be curious to see how ultimately they work it out there. But, I mean, you can make it work regular season-wise while having him, certainly. And you don't have to depend on him. Because, see, the thing that Kyrie's going to have to deal with playing for Boston is he's the only dude on that squad that in the postseason you trust to get his own shot. Remember, in Utah, when it came down as a time in the playoffs to get your own shot, they didn't go to Gordon Hayward. They went to Joe Johnson. Right. So, like, this is how this goes. Like, Kyrie is going to be the guy on that team to get his own shot. Isaiah Thomas will not be the only guy on his team that's now expected to go out there and be able to get his own shot. It won't just be him. So I'll be curious to see how he's freed up being off the ball and having LeBron as the guy to take the ball a lot. Like, I'll be curious to see how that goes. It'll also be interesting to see how effective is Isaiah Thomas if he doesn't have the ball all the time. These are the things that we're going to wind up seeing from this squad. But, I mean, did the Cavs get worse? Like, I don't think that Isaiah Thomas is as good a player as Kyrie Irving necessarily, but given that they both have the same deficiencies and the things they both give you positive are roughly the same, did the Cavs get worse?
All right, well, we won't have to wait long to see these two teams play as the Celtics open up the season playing at the Cavs. So Kyrie already comes home to play Cleveland. So our Twitter poll today on the ESPN Radio Twitter account, Cavaliers host Boston opening night. When Kyrie's name is announced, Cleveland fans will, and the options were boo Kyrie or cheer Kyrie. So what do you think, Bo, before getting the answer? All right, 61% of the listeners voted, said yes, they will in fact boo Kyrie.
Dude, they'll boo because it's become self-fulfilling prophecy, like the jersey burning thing. Somebody burned Isaiah Thomas's jersey. Why? Because he traded himself? Right? Like, it has become a self-fulfilling prophecy that people just feel like this is the thing that they're supposed to do. That when somebody leaves town, they're supposed to be mad in that way. Like, that's it. That's how they see it.
I don't get the jersey burning dudes, but we talked earlier in reference to Kyrie and the Harrison Barnes wedding and him partying with Steph Curry. Well, according to our Mark Spears of The Undefeated, the Cleveland had contacted Golden State about a possible Kyrie for Klay Thompson trade, in which Golden State quickly said, "Nah, we're good."
Yeah, for who? For what? Right? Like, how would that not make them worse? Right? Like, that's just one of those where I feel like that Kobe Altman was new to the league and was like, "Let me find out who's a sucker." Right? Like, let me just call around the league and see if I can find out who's a sucker.
But here's the thing, though. I mean, you miss every shot you don't take, right?
That's what I'm saying. He was just like, yo, I just want to see if I can find a sucker. That was the only thing. And the Warriors are like, dog, do I look like sucker? Do we look like suckers to you? Do I have sucker written across my forehead? Stop acting like I'm a sucker.
So the big story, of course, was the Kyrie trade that went down yesterday. And you would think, you know, we have these analysts, the folks who are close to the story. One of those guys, of course, Brian Windhorst, our very own Brian Windhorst here at ESPN. The only problem, Brian's on vacation. So he tweeted out last night at 7:29 p.m. He tweeted, "I'm in Rome. It's 1:30 a.m. and my wife may consider divorcing me if I leave to go analyze this Cavs-Celtics trade. So sorry, guys. Good night."
Actually, I was about to say, look, man, I wanted to admit Mrs. Windhorst gives not a damn about what this is. None at all. And I imagine when he said my wife might divorce me, I don't feel like he was joking. Like, I don't feel like that was hyperbole. It's like, look, man, I got one more.
Yeah, nah, special shout-out goes out to Brian for understanding what it is. And, yeah, this is a big deal, but, nah, I'm on vacay with the missus in Rome.
No, it does not. It does not work. This is like the common refrain of sports journalists, man. It's like, put the phone down.
You got to get away from it. So, we have the Madden curse, of course, when guys are on the cover and they tend to get hurt afterwards. Well, it seems as though we're starting to get an NBA 2K curse. Dating back to 2013 with NBA 2K14, LeBron James is on the cover. He left the Heat to go to Cleveland. The next year, you had Kevin Durant on the cover. We know he went and joined the Warriors. Fast forward to 2016 for NBA 2K17, Paul George on the cover. He is now in Oklahoma City. And you had 2K18, Kyrie Irving was on the cover, and we know he is now gone.
Oh.
So I just thought that was fascinating. And last and certainly not least, Robert Griffin III. Remember him? Well, he tweeted out today, "My teammates from high school, college, and the NFL are all rejoicing today because I finally cut my hair."
Really? You're still not going to get no job.
I was going to say, by Michael Vick's logic, he should be in line for a quarterback job, right?
I think by Robert Griffin's logic, it might be it. I love the fact, though, that apparently all these people have been telling him to cut his hair, and he's been like, "Nah, man, this how I do it. Like, this my thing. This my style. 2 words for you. Good Burger." When Good Burger, that movie? Robert Griffin's like, "I bet you're surprised, but I know every line to the movie, The Inkwell." All right, 888-729-3776. That's our telephone number. Coming up next, talk to Mike Sando of ESPN. What quarterbacks are on what tier? ESPN Radio.
Welcome to the Right Time Podcast. The Right Time with Bomani Jones. This is The Right Time with Bomani Jones on ESPN Radio or on the ESPN app.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. You can send us a tweet at the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. That is at Bomani_Jones. We got a bonus half hour here for you guys at the right time. We'll be on till 7:30 Eastern. But joining us right now, he's a writer for ESPN.com, covers the NFL. His name is Mike Sando. Now, Mike, every year you do this with a quarterback tier ranking where we take all the quarterbacks and put them between tiers 1 and tier 5. So how do you go about doing that?
It started a few years ago just talking with coaches and personnel people in the league about, what everyone talks about. Hey, who are the best quarterbacks? But the part that is most interesting is the why. And so I've really learned how people in the league view the quarterbacks and basically how much help does our quarterback need to win? So when you see at the very top in tier 1, you see Aaron Rodgers lose offensive linemen. He's got no running backs. He's got a wide receiver playing running back. And still, by the end of the year, his stats will look like a Pro Bowl quarterback. Tom Brady, for the most part, you couldn't name, he's had so many receivers come through there. Drew Brees has had so many receivers come through. Yet all these guys at the top, when they're down late in the game, and it doesn't matter what kind of defense they have, it doesn't matter if they can scramble, it doesn't matter if they have a great running back. It's all on them. The defense knows where they're going to be, what they have to do. It's a pure pass situation. Do you melt? Or do you, come back from 28-3 on the biggest stage and win the game? So that's one extreme at the top, and at the bottom, if you don't have that guy, if you've got a lower tier quarterback, you're going to want to limit the number of times he drops back to pass. You're going to want to have a strong running game. You're going to want to have a good defense just to survive, let alone try to compete at the highest level.
All right, talking to Mike Sando of ESPN here on the right time. Now, tier 1, of course, I think those become the ones that are pretty easy to get with. But tier 2, I think, is where things get most fascinating because that's where we start getting into as much personal preference as much as anything else. So is there anybody who was surprised that was in tier 2 that wasn't either in tier 1 or tier 3?
Surprised, no, but I think the view on Andrew Luck is changing because he's gotten hurt. I mean, Andrew carried that team when they weren't good around him and got them to the playoffs a few years, but the hits are taking their toll. So I think at the top of tier 2 and lower in the tier 2 with Cam Newton, I think those are two really interesting guys because, they're guys who carry their teams in different ways and are showing the physical strain of that. And so these are two guys who should be ascending in their primes, and we have questions about how long they're going to be able to hold up doing what they're doing.
Now, I have to say, I was shocked to see that Kirk Cousins was in tier 2 because even the general manager of, the franchise previously has said that you need to put great talent around him for him to be good, which would seem to run counter to what this tier system says.
Well, he's at the very bottom. Is he the last guy in tier 2?
He's the last one.
He's the last one. So he's a 2.48. So if one other guy in the survey, basically what people feel on Kirk Cousins is he's kind of a 3 who's played like a 2. I mean, people are giving him his due. But I think they feel like the ceiling for him is in the 2s. And people have questions, too, about, not only losing the wide receivers, but that Sean McVay did some special kind of scheming with him and that he may feel that, too. Plus, just the whole situation's a mess. I mean, I don't know how that he does anything but end up in tier 3 by the end of the year.
All right, we're talking to Mike Sando of ESPN here on the right time. Now, speaking of Sean McVay, I saw that Jared Goff was in tier 4 on this one. Is this just looking at Jared Goff on where he is right now, or is that an evaluation of where guys think he could be?
Yeah, I think for a guy like that, there's an incomplete amount of information, and so it is somewhat where he is right now. But I think the feeling on him is much less optimistic than it is on a Carson Wentz or a Dak Prescott or some other guys coming out of their first or second seasons. And the main reason is people just see the look in his eye and don't think he has it. They don't think that he's the type of guy. I mean, he's like the opposite of Jameis Winston. He just doesn't really have any swagger to him. And so we'll see. That may be unfair. He was in a terrible situation. The coach was, maybe not handling the right way. The offense was prehistoric. It was horrible.
No, I'm sorry to be interrupted.
Yeah, no, that's good.
That's it. No, but you mentioned Jameis. He does have a lot of those classic quarterback traits, except this problem with throwing the ball to the other team. What did you get back in your intel from talking to guys about him?
I thought he would be higher because the love for him is high. Everybody loves him, but I think it's two things that are happening that why he's not higher. Number one, not much of a body of work. It's only a couple years, so guys don't anoint. And then number two, he needs to do it without turning the ball over. We saw in the game against Jacksonville. There's two things a young quarterback has to learn. Number one, protect yourself. You're an asset to the organization. Number two, protect the ball because everyone's job depends on how well you do that. So we've seen quarterbacks. Peyton Manning threw a lot of picks early in his career and threw hardly any at the end. Jameis, we'll find out if he can grow and do that, or is it just kind of part of his competitive nature that he's going to do it every once in a while, like kind of Phillip Rivers does.
Well, also, did you take from Jay Cutler being in Tier 3, the NFL guys just can't quit him no matter how badly they try?
It's not a Tier 3 compliment to him. It's more of a Tier 3, like, hey, he just is what he is. When Jay was with Lovie Smith from 2010 to 2012, they were top 3 defense, and he was 27-13 as a starter. Since then, he has better stats, and he's 17-29. He is what he is. He's a Tier 3 guy who's going to be lifted up or dragged down by what's around him. That's all.
All right, we're talking to Mike Sando of ESPN here on The Right Time. Now, the Broncos quarterbacks both got themselves into Tier 4, both Simeon and Paxton Lynch, but I'm curious what you're hearing about Simeon because I can't tell if I'm being biased against him being a 7th-round pick when I just don't see much there.
Yeah, that's really the question with him. And you saw, like, when Russell Wilson came in as a 3rd-rounder, it took people a while to admit that he was better than that. And I think there's some of that working against Simeon. The other thing that really worked against him was their offensive line wasn't just bad. I mean, he changed as a quarterback because he got hit so much. I think he was better early in the year. But people see him as, I think, having potential to be a Tier 3 quarterback because there is some nuance to his game, unlike Paxton Lynch, who was really raw. It's just a question, do you want to go forward with a guy who's probably going to be a 3 at best?
All right, talking to Mike Sando of ESPN here on The Right Time, and I was going through Tier 3 and just counting up how many guys were there, and it seems like the average NFL starter is right between Alex Smith and Andy Dalton. Is that basically the conclusion that we've reached?
Absolutely. People say Alex is a 3 all day. They don't mean it as a slight, but I think you're right. There's 22 quarterbacks in the league making $15 million a year or more. Can you name 22 quarterbacks that you'd want to have on your team?
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's hard to, but it's just scarcity of the position,
All right, now, also, Dak Prescott was at the top of Tier 3. Now, from the guys that you talked to, we're talking to Mike Sando of ESPN here on The Right Time. From the guys that you talked to, how much did they feel that this was something special about him, and how much of it was all the talent that surrounded him?
Well, there was a lot of guys who dropped their head, put their hands up, and said, I was wrong about how accurately he could throw the ball. I mean, that was just like the consensus on Dak was that he checked all the boxes of everything you want in a quarterback, except he didn't throw accurately, and that's critical in the NFL to put it on the money. And then he threw accurately this year, which I think is a testament to him and him working at his game. Maybe people were wrong in their scouting report, but there's great optimism on him. The reason he's still in 3 is what you said. Everything around him was great, but every time he was presented with a test, it seemed like he passed it. So there's great optimism on him to be a 2 this year, but they're not going to anoint him because of how great it was around him.
All right, last question from Mike Sando of ESPN. I'm looking at the cluster of guys in Tier 4, and then Robert Griffin kind of alone here in Tier 5. It seems like Tier 4 was the place where they're like, man, I really don't want to say anything that bad about somebody.
Hey, this is great. You must have got the internal copy where I had a couple guys who we didn't even leave in here because I don't think Griffin's on the one on the website, but I had him in there. He was the only guy who went into Tier 5, which is amazing. Think of all the quarterback situations, and no one's talking about bringing him in. Usually the guys in 4 are either someone who's hardly played and we're not going to say much about him yet, good or bad, or someone who's really descending, like a Brock Osweiler who's just tanked so bad that you say, all right, next year he's a 5 if he does it again.
Yeah, and by the way, for guys, and I do have this internal copy, the last 4 names that are listed here have one thing in common. They have all recently played or will soon play for the Cleveland Browns. That is Mike Sando, ESPN cover the NFL. All right, now ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options. Pick the price that works for you. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to The Right Time. My name is Bomani Jones. Thanks for listening on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. All guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Thanks to Mike Sando of ESPN for joining us the last segment. Thanks to Aaron Goldhammer of ESPN Radio in Cleveland for joining us in the 6 o'clock Eastern hour. Thanks to Charania for joining us in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. Thanks to Amin Elhassan for joining us in the 5 o'clock Eastern hour. Thanks to Gary Washbrun for joining us in the 4 o'clock Eastern hour. Remember, if you missed anything live, check out the Right Time podcast, available on the ESPN app. All right, we just had Mike Sando on. We were talking about his list of tiers of NFL quarterbacks. He basically sends out a ballot to these coaches and tells them to put all the quarterbacks in the league into one of 5 tiers. Now, here is tier number 1 of quarterbacks. Tier number 1 of quarterbacks had 2 unanimous choices. Unanimous choice 1 was Aaron Rodgers. Unanimous choice 2 was Tom Brady. Then you had Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, and Matt Ryan. Okay, all those guys either got tier 1 or tier 2 votes. After that, we get into tier 2. Andrew Luck, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Phillip Rivers, Russell Wilson, Eli Manning, Cam Newton, and rounding out tier 2, Kirk Cousins. When I mentioned that to Mike Sando, we bust out laughing. Apparently, Mike Sando's familiar with my work, Shannon. I didn't know if Mike Sando knew what I had been doing over here, but apparently Mike Sando is familiar with my work. I feel like you laughed when he did that, too.
When I first saw Kirk Cousins, too, I'm like, tier 2?
Well, the part that I found strange about that is McLuhan, the general manager that everybody heaps all this praise upon for the time that he spent in Washington, he has come out and said pretty clearly that if you surround Kirk Cousins with great talent, he can be good. Right? Because I think we'd all agree that up to this point, Cousins has been good. He says you surround him with great talent, he could be good. Now, we asked Mike Sando how you get these guys in these tiers, and they say part of it is the ability to still get it done in spite of all kinds of change and everything else that goes on around you. We have no evidence of that at Kirk Cousins, but they're going for that. Shannon, let me tell you something else I noticed about these tiers, too. These cats really like quarterbacks who don't move. Like, other than Kirk Cousins, the entire tier 1, tier 2 over Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger, Drew Brees, Matt Ryan, Andrew Luck, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, Phillip Rivers, and then we get to Russell Wilson. Then you get to Eli Manning. Like, the paradigm is really firmly set here on what people just believe that a quarterback is, and it seems in a lot of ways they're just never able to shake that belief. So, like Eli Manning, Shannon, have you seen anything to indicate to you that Eli Manning just gets it done no matter what happens around him?
I wonder how much of this has to do with the proposed weapons that Eli's going to have at his disposal this season. So I don't know if it's more about the weapons or is it that they still have this confidence in Eli.
No, but remember, the tiering system is based on what can you do if the weapons and things like that change. Right? Like, it's supposed to, the variability of those things is supposed to be built in there. So there goes your man, Eli Manning. You seem skeptical.
I mean, if the coaches feel that way, I just...
By the way, also in that interview with Mike Sando said there are 22 quarterbacks in the NFL who make $15 million a year or more. Mike Glennon making $15 million a year this year, Shannon. Mike Glennon is right there in tier 4 behind Trevor Siemian. What are the Bears doing? Like, what is on the Bears' minds when they decided, yeah, this is what we're going to do. We'll take any old quarterback. It don't matter what. Okay, that's the one that's out there. Okay, cool. We'll take them. I imagine the Cleveland Browns right now got to be salty. Apparently, they think about moving Brock Osweiler. They got to be salty as hell. They'd be like, damn, we could have got the Bears to take him. If they hadn't gone out here and made the draft pick and everything else, they're like, oh, they're the suckers that we were looking for. Everybody need a sucker. That's the sucker we were looking for.
I think what's just most disheartening about quarterback play, you look at the number of starting quarterbacks that are on these lower tiers, these tier 4 and lower. These guys that are either the incumbent starter or battling for a starting position. The Simeons, we had Simeon, Bortles, who's still battling. He probably loses his job. Brian Hoyer in San Francisco.
Yes. Starters.
These are starters, guys. These aren't backups. These are starters. Starters. Oh, also, Shannon, what I thought was of note here. So the Jets have 3 quarterbacks this year, right? Not 4? Or do they have 4? They got Bryce Petty, they got Hackenberg, and they got Josh McCown, right? Yes. The highest-rated Jets quarterback in Mike Sando's list of quarterbacks by tier is Josh McCown, who is in between Tom Savage and Brock Osweiler. And Brock Osweiler might have been the worst quarterback we've ever seen last year, whose name was not Tim Tebow. I hope Matt Forte is ready for a lot of carries this year. He's still in the league? He's with the Jets. Did he play for them last year? He did, yes. Okay. I remember him playing there last year. I guess I just never considered the possibility.